Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Serial Entrepreneur, CEO of Leadershipity. I have just actually been named the president of Entrepreneurs Organization in West Michigan. I'm super excited about that upcoming year with them and the entrepreneurs and the growing community in the Western Michigan area, as well as I have probably started over 13 companies and been working all around the world, spoken over 17 countries, and it had another fabulous weekend last week in Hawaii out there with the Entrepreneurs Organization and a great community. So that was fabulous. I did write the book, Leading Winning Teams. Man, that's super bright. Look at that. Leading Winning Teams. That is the name of my book, published by Wiley last year. That is in form hard book, ebook, audio, all sorts of stuff. So you can pick it up anywhere all great books are sold. Most people know me, though, because I spent over 13 years and coached in 3 World Series in professional baseball. So always a good welcome to the Winners Find a Way show, and welcome to my friend and guest, Tino Dietrich. Tino, what's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
Man, I am super excited about our show, the Dietrich Institute, everything that's going on with you right now. It's pretty awesome, man. You know, you're a Hamburg, Germany native, which probably most people wouldn't think about that when they talk to you because you're down in Miami. You got a little Latin flair, like
I
I
know.
could see the people walking up and just going straight Spanish on you. Does that happen?
100%.
It
Yeah, all the
happens.
time, all the time. And I'm like, man, English. I don't expect them German, right? But hey,
Yeah.
English.
Do you speak Spanish?
I do speak Spanish. I lived in Mexico City for a while. I
Yeah,
worked with Colgate, and yeah, I learned that
a little
hablo
bit.
español un
Okay,
poquito.
yeah, so that's pretty impressive. Like, it's always good to meet all the Europeans. You guys know like
Hey.
6, 7 languages, and you know the old joke, right? 3 languages trilingual, 2 languages bilingual, 1 language is American, right?
I've never heard that before. I love it.
Really? Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is the old adage of us here over here. But you're in Miami now,
Yeah, yeah.
Syracuse grad. You're an Orangeman, which is awesome.
Yep, yep. Played
And
at the golf team.
yep, came over from Germany to go to uni. And man, you've just lived like everywhere. Like back to Munich, Southeast Asia, Mexico City, as you mentioned, Switzerland.
Yeah.
And as a man who married, a young lady from Hamburg, Germany, did she know what she was getting into? And she's like, "Hey, we're
Right.
gonna get married. Like, this is gonna be awesome. I've got a house picked out 2 doors down from my parents." And then you're like, uh, hold on there. I don't know if that's gonna work.
That is exactly how it went. I mean, I just I remember calling her from Zurich. I was sitting at the lake, and I said, "Honey, I had to travel so much, and Hamburg has not many international flights. So Zurich was like a hub. Frankfurt was a hub. London was a hub. I
Yeah.
loved Zurich for some reason, and I said, I have an idea, and I think that's when it all started.
Well, first of all, who doesn't love Zurich, right? Like, I mean, it's Switzerland, right? Like, I mean, it's amazing, and the only thing that you don't love about Zurich is the cost. That's it.
And to all fairness, the winters are not that great either.
Okay.
It's pretty. I mean, you got to escape into the mountains, which you
Yeah.
can't do all the time. So yeah,
Yeah. You better appreciate the winter sports a little bit.
and that's why we went. We were like snowbirds, like the
Yeah.
people from Canada coming down to Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then you have Mexico City. You're just the opposite. Like, you never see cold, right? Like, yeah.
I actually went to Thunderbird after Syracuse for my master's, and I mean it was so hot. Like you had to play tennis at 4 a.m. in the morning if you wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, like, when you're in that kind of heat. You do things that you never thought you'd do at the hours that you do them, right?
Oh,
'Cause it's like, "Oh, hey, listen, we should really go outside. Let's wait till 11 PM." Like, I thought we were gonna go to bed. Like, I know, but it's gonna be cool. Like,
it's a complete different life.
yeah, it's it's the what we do, man, and it's great because, like, how much value, Tino, do you think you've received in your life from travel by being in these different cultures, climates, the way people live? How much has that impacted your life and your family?
It's everything. I think the relationships, and I believe relationships are really what matter most in our lives. That's where you learn and what shapes you. And me being able to travel the world, as a German coming to America, and being everywhere, like Mexico. I was working like a German until my boss told me, you got to learn to live like a Mexican, right? So and I started to adapt, and in Asia the same way. You run around. I mean, you
Yeah.
look different between all these Asians, right? And but it was great. And I have to say, I'm so grateful for all the people that took the time and energy to teach me and to introduce me to all these different cultures and the values and so on and so forth. But I was also very adaptive. I think that's important. If you're not, then very tough.
I think this is a great lesson for people right here is that, I love the idea of showing somebody, my America, right? Like
Yeah.
cottage up north. This is where we play golf. This is how, this is where the boat's held, like, and this is kind of fun, right? And then this culture downstate's different, and it's a faster pace in the city than it is in the country. But what I find, Tino, and tell me if you see the same, is that it's like mentorship. If you've got someone who's passionate to learn, who takes a genuine interest, who's authentic about getting engaged, it's easy to be a mentor. It's easy to show you
Yeah.
around. It's
Yeah.
easy to show you my culture because you actually are
Yeah.
appreciating it and showing and
Yeah.
and diving into the value of it and really sapping it up like the sponge that you've become, right?
That's, I think, is an interesting discussion because I think a lot of people misunderstand the ability to learn and be curious and be adaptive and
Yeah.
to just shut up for a moment, to observe and be present. So that's one side, and the other side, what they mistake it for, is weak. You blend in and you need to understand that those are two separate things. So you identify the adaptive learning ability with being weak and not strong enough, and that is complete nonsense.
Yeah, I'll tell you something we tell a lot of our clients, right? And I'd love to get your take on this because we tell a lot of people who want that. They desire that leadership position.
Mm,
And I think they're often misled in thinking like, when I'm going to be the leader, Tino, I'm going to be
mm.
the answer person. And I'm like, "Oh, I want you to be very clear. Watch Tino. He's taking in everything and Tino doesn't have all the answers. He just asks us all the best questions. And then we have to go all find the answers."
That is the key. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't take advice the way it should be taken. A lot of people believe that good coaching is to tell people what to do. And I don't believe in that. I think if you're trying to explain someone how to be happy, right, you don't try and transform them into that person that you think is the happy person because you probably define happiness in a complete different way than I would do. So
Yeah.
the only way to get there is to enable people with the how to. So that, I think, is a huge difference. Is that I have a clear idea of what, and no, but keep it to yourself. And that is the answers, right? You don't have the answers. You have to ask the right questions, and then
Mm.
people will come up with the answer as it is. I always say, look, I'm sitting at these tables, with all these smart people, and then I say I'm probably the dumbest person in the room, and I'm not saying that to so they go like, no, Tino, no, no, no. I
Yeah, the
am, you know.
self-deprecating, like throw out the hook and go fishing for compliments.
And then nobody, you hire experts.
Yeah,
So you value their opinion, but then you hire experts, and all you do is you don't value their
right,
opinion. You
right.
micromanagement. You tell them how to do the. I'm like, man, no, 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 no. That's not how it works.
It's a bad use of our money. right? Like we just hired you for your expertise. Why would I tell you what to do?
But
You're the one
you
who's
know,
supposed to be the expert. I want to get my money's worth.
I always say the entrepreneur has to do the right things, and the manager has to do the things right.
That's a good one. I like that one. The entrepreneur has to do the right things, and the manager has to
Has
do
to
the
do the
things
things
right.
right.
That's a great quote. Is that in? Would that be in your first book?
Probably.
Okay. So as we get in, like I wanted to, you've done this tech entrepreneur thing. You've hit the Inc.
Yeah.
500 fastest growing. You were early investor, Ashley Madison, Hot or Not. Those are just great brands that actually took off like wildfire, like in the
Yeah.
in the digital dating age, and it was just crazy. It's always a curious, story of Ashley Madison because the
I
rise is just a massive it's a massive, deal,
it
man.
100%, and I always say, look, when we started that, it was a day and age when no iPhone, right? There wasn't like mobile dating and stuff like people were clacking in their Blackberries or their
Yeah.
Nokia flip-flop phone or something. You wanted to do online dating, you went home on your computer. So it was Match.com the early days.
What
And then I left the company 2012, and I say that's the year when the iPad was introduced, just to put it into
wow. Yeah, just
context.
to put it into perspective, right?
And
Like,
you'd be
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, and by the way, you'd already, 1,000, 2,000x this whole thing, and then it did another, 4 or 5x since then, right?
I know,
So,
I know.
but it was brilliant marketing. I recall like, who knew, online dating. I think it just had started like with Match and things like that had
Yeah, yeah.
basically just started. And I remember I was in Toronto. We were playing the Blue Jays, and I saw this billboard. Life is short. Have an affair. AshleyMadison.com. And
Uh,
curiosity immediately was like, you got to go see that website. Like, what is this? What is this
yeah,
about? Like, and you don't know if this is an adult store. You don't know if this is a therapy. Who knows? Like, but you
yep.
got to go to the site and find out because the curiosity got going. And then all of a sudden, as people start finding out about this, I mean, it was shocking how many times I read articles about um, you know, I guess this is back of the marketing. No news is
I,
bad news, right?
I,
Because
it,
there would be these
it,
articles that would come out, and then their subscriber would like triple of a bad article that was trying to destroy them,
I
right?
know. I
It was
know.
wild.
I look. I think if you would roll out that playbook today, it wouldn't work. I
Yeah.
mean, you got Tinder and whatnot, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
at that time, the whole online dating thing. I mean, when people met online on Match.com, and you saw your friends, and you're like, how did you guys meet? You wouldn't say online. It was almost where you said,
Oh,
we
no
dated
way.
online. Hey, I met my wife in a brothel. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So they made up all this. Oh, we met at the flea market. So funny.
Oh, yeah.
They made up all these stories. So today, who cares? I think every third marriage is formed online. So, that whole
That's
thing has
crazy.
transformed society so very much. And we did just had the marketing angle, and of course everybody was so upset and shocked and this and that.
Yeah.
But Tinder today is trust me, is connecting more people on steroids than we ever were able to.
Yeah, it's bizarre, right? It is it really has. The digital dating has changed the whole culture. I mean,
A
to a
hundred
in
percent.
fact, in fact, it's so funny because we've lived through it, right? You and I at my age anyway. And so it's funny and you're exactly right. I mean, listen, in 2003, there wasn't a person in the world who say, "Oh, I met my husband online." Like we were dating like no, they were some BS story, right?
I
And
Yeah.
so and so now I have bet that in the last probably like 6 months, I've had 5 people tell me, "Oh,
Yeah.
I met my spouse online." And I'm like, "Oh," like a little bit proud of it, like, "Yo, oh, this is where we met." Like, not
Yeah.
not any
Yeah.
shame, that's for sure, right?
No, no, no. But you see, I when I went into this early on, I mean, it was like the early days of
Yeah.
online dating. What I saw, I mean, it was like this aha moment, the classic entrepreneur DNA. I saw that I looked at online dating the same way I said, like cable television. You had all these niche like cooking and sports
Yeah.
and blah, and even in sports you had tennis and golf and da, 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 da. So I said, you know what? We're so diverse as we are, so there will be older people dating younger people, dating older younger people, younger older, blah 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 blah, cougar dating. That's what we all did. We had all these sides, cougar
Yeah.
dating and sugar daddy dating and whatnot. So um and I think when there's Jewish dating and uniform dating, and that's really what happened, is the whole diversity of us is now reflected. And as we get older, you and I, of course, for us, it's still, the silver surfer dating. That really is, we're like still like, wow. Because I mean, I didn't do that when I was young. I went to a
Right.
club or something, right? In a
Yeah.
bar or whatever, however it worked. But
Yeah. Well, it's very easy to find our tribe, right? Like we've basically designated where our tribe is at by based on what we like and what they like. Like, hey, I'm going to find my
that's it.
people.
That's it. And sometimes, girls snuck into places where they didn't like it, but they still were trying to find the guy, vice
Right.
versa too, right? I mean, come
Right.
on. We did what we had to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Everybody.
and it's also become very easy to be like, "Hey, I'm interested in that tribe, but I don't
Mm,
know if I'd like it." But what I
yeah.
could do is I could go online, I could go meet out
That,
with a couple of people and see what they're all about and see if, like,
yep.
maybe that is a true tribe I could really enjoy. And
Yeah.
it's funny, man, because, like, I am a sports guy through and through. And, I have a bunch of clients who are gearheads, right? They love it. They're engineering. They just love how their mind works process, right? Let's rip the engine out and tear the thing apart because this will be a fun Saturday. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking I might shoot myself in the foot to know I'm alive, right? And I'm like, this sounds awful for me. Yet now I'm leaning into this, sitting in the garage, hearing what they're talking about, and I'm interested. I'm not interested in still tearing an engine apart, but I'm interested in this tribe, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
intriguing. I would have never gone into that tribe until a digital era kind of made it okay. You know what I mean?
Makes it easy. Made it easy.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, it kind of
mm.
made it easy. So you also, German, let's just go back to the engineering because you do cars so well. Thank you, Mercedes. So, you design a golf ball that's unique. You're a player yourself. You're out on
Yeah.
the DGV, the German,
Golf
uh,
Association. Yeah.
yep, yep. And so
So
that's pretty awesome.
it's kind of funny because in high school I started the first. It was a high school tournament without the German Golf Association, the DGV. In Germany, everything is a little different, but
Yeah,
it's considered like a hybrid of the USGA and the PGA.
yeah,
So I started this tournament amongst kids. Then the DGV came and said, "You can't do that. You have to really do that under our umbrella. Because it's a amateur championship." Long story short, that high school tournament turned. It was the Audi High School Cup. It was sponsored by Audi, and it turned into the German Amateur Championships. So this was I was like
wow,
16, right? 16.
that's crazy.
I always had this crazy entrepreneurial DNA. So I formed this. They took over and they built it into what it became. So fast forward, post COVID, I had to lose a lot of weight and I had to get back in shape. And for the record, I lost 90 pounds. But
Wow,
one of the things I did is because I really couldn't do too much, because I was in such a bad shape. I started to play golf again because that was something, post COVID, you could run
yeah,
around. It was allowed, a lot of,
outside, yep,
right. The gyms were closed and this and this and this. So I could do that. So I started playing golf and I went back to Germany one day and I ran into this golf ball. That was so cool because one thing that really, really, really didn't make me happy was how expensive golf balls became.
yeah,
So I bought all these lake balls and I thought I'm like super clever, I can now get the Titleist for half the money, and so on and so forth. What I didn't know is that all these balls are really bad for your game. It's like driving your new car with used tires. You wouldn't do that either. So, but I didn't know that. So then I ran into this golf ball, which was endorsed by the German Golf Association, endorsed by the Porsche Cup, and I played these balls, and they got all these different balls, and I was so intrigued. And I call up the company because I had ordered some balls and they didn't arrive on time because I wanted to bring them back here to the US and have my son try them, right? My son is also playing golf. So didn't get the package. Someone picks up the phone and I'm like, hey, the package not here. And he's like, oh, I just picked up the phone. I'm actually the founder. Yeah, and I got to talk to the warehouse people here in just a second. And I said, well, hold on, since I have you on the phone. You're not selling in the US, and so on and so forth. So we started to have this conversation for about an hour. And I flew back to the US. I'm staring out of the window and I'm saying, man, I think I have an idea, because in America, these balls, they're so good. So I tested them. I had some PGA players test them. Everybody loved them. I went back to Germany. I cut a deal with the guy. And voila, and here I am, now rolling this out in the US, Latin America, and it's called Snyder, Snyder, Snyder Golf USA. And these balls are absolutely amazing. I don't want to go on and lecture you too much about it, but if you're an avid golfer, you don't understand how important your golf ball is. It is the one and only thing. If you talk to a pro, they say driver, ball, putter. Boom. Driver, ball, putter.
You know what amateurs don't know that pros know, Tino, is equipment is a big deal. Right?
It
Like,
is.
like your entire life is valued on, and I ran into this all the time with minor league players coming up on their way to the major leagues. I'm like, oh, well, they just gave you $250,000 to sign. They put a value on your body, and you went out and bought $19 shoes from Target because you thought I need to save a buck, and minus the shin splints and the knee pain and how that may be affecting your performance. You're not concerned with. I'm like, you got to be crazy, man. I mean, like this is all it is. Like it's all about your equipment. You use the best, or you don't compete.
But I think there are certain things, a shoe, maybe people understand because they feel it. The golf ball looks always the same from the outside. I have people who are in front of a water hazard. Then I look at them and they play like whatever they play, the Nike, the Titleist Pro V1. And then they take a bad ball and put it there. And I said, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm not going to take my nice ball to play across the water because I'm going to hit the
water. Yeah.
And I'm like, but you just decreased your chance to actually make the water hazard by 30-40% because now you're using a corrupted ball that who knows what happened to that ball, has a crack inside, whatever. So you just diminished your chances to do that. What you should do is you should take the best ball you have to increase the chances you're making that, and people don't think about this. They pay $180 for a round of golf, but they try and save $2 on the ball. I'm like, So that's really why I came with this DTC idea to bring this great ball, which is a highly sophisticated. We have 2 5-piece balls. We get like really cool balls, and an amazing price. That's really what we do. We always say we bring in the best quality for the best price, best value. Boom.
Love it. I love it. All right. So here's a couple things. That are at least one thing that most people don't know about you. You've had not one, but 2 shots across the bow here, near death experiences, man. And this has catapulted you to write your first book called Unfogged. Unfogged. I want to be very clear about that. It's Unfogged, people.
Unfogged.
I know, especially when you say it German, it really sounds bad. So Unfogged. So Unfogged. Unfogged.
Yep.
And by the way,
PG-13.
Yeah. PG-13. So this is a real deal, though. This is a real issue for high performers. Like we just talked about the equipment. Why would you eliminate any ability to be at your best by using subpar equipment? Why would you eliminate your chance to ability to compete with the other elite performers because you're caught in fog, lack of sleep, lack of focus, lack of this? So I can't wait to read this book. Tell me what was the initial incentive? You've talked about your purpose and mission. Was that the
Mm.
driver behind this book?
So what happened is, maybe just to go back,
Yeah, let's go back.
like 5 years ago, almost to the day COVID hit. A lot of people will remember.
Yep.
Some, when I look at them, seem to have already forgotten about it. But we couldn't go outside and this and
Oh
that.
yeah.
My whole family was sick. I was sick. They got better. I didn't. One day, headache, really bad. I turned to telemedicine consulting because you couldn't go to a doctor, and I took my vitals, and she said, "You got to go to the urgent care center right now." So I said, "Okay." I said to my wife, "Honey, I got to get some medication." And she was like, "Will you be back?" And I said, "Well, I'll be back, latest for dinner." She's like, "Okay." So I went to the urgent care center. They just stared at me, took my vitals, and they're like, "No, no, no, you got to go to the hospital." I'm like, "Oh God, just give me some pain medication." They're like, "No, you got to go to the hospital." I'm like, "Okay." Hospital, probably better than pain medication, stronger pills,
I'm gonna get the
whatever.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So parked the car, walked over to and there was like two entrances, regular
You're
people,
driving
older people.
yourself. I mean, you're not
Yeah,
incapacitated. Like you
I
can't.
didn't feel good. Just
Yeah, for
horrible
sure.
headache, but haven't we had it all, right? So, and then I walk into the emergency room, and all of a sudden, like, I feel like, oh man, I've collapsed. Boom. I wake up, I'm like having all these things at me, the IV and this and that. I'm like, oh, and they said, we got to take you to the ICU, and I'm like, oh, whatever. And then fell asleep again because of the pain medication they gave me. I wake up and they said, look, we got to put you on an ECMO, and it's our last resort here. And I'm like, I don't even know what an ECMO is. Never heard of ECMO.
Yeah.
What do you mean ECMO?
I
And
mean, this is like 3 hours, like, after you told your wife
yeah,
you'd be back for
yeah.
dinner,
I just
and
had
now
parked my
and now
car.
how does that work, like, in your mindset where you're like, "Hey, I parked the car a couple hours ago, told my wife I'd be back for dinner," and now a doctor just used, our last resort language, and you're like,
You really? You're like, first of all, I was like high on something,
"Yeah, of
but
course.
you're trying to make sense of what people tell you. You don't really, it's all like processing super fast. It's like a fast forward movie. You're like,
Yeah,
so, and I'm like, okay, like, of course, you're not like trying to make sense of everything. You're like trying to process everything as it comes at you because it comes at the light speed. So, ECMO. Okay, so they put me on that ECMO. It's a long needle into the artery. I'm like, whatever. I didn't know what they were doing with me. They put that thing in the arm. Like, you see that long needle disappearing in your arm. You're like, man, that's not good. And and then he hands me the phone, the hospital phone, and the priest is on the line. I'm like, well, why you want me to talk to the priest? And I thought, like, stupid as I am, like, he wants to invite me for the Sunday mass, but I'm not going to be here Sunday. I'm going to go home for dinner, right?
yeah,
Um, and then he's like, he talks to me, and do you have a last will? And I'm like, man, that's really personal. Why you ask me these things? That's none of your business. And he's like, you want me to, read you your last rites? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I still not understanding what's going on. Then I listen to what he's saying, and I'm like, hold on, that's not happening. And he's like, Lord, welcome in with open arms and this and that. And he's like, do you want to say something? I was speechless. I said, no. I honestly lost of words. So nurse takes the phone back, hangs up. The doctor, looks at me, and I look at the doctor, and I say, you know, I like, and I said, I got to be okay, right? I'm okay. I can go back home. And he says, we don't know. We don't know. So he said, call your wife, and call whoever you want to say goodbye, because we don't know, if you're able to do that tomorrow. So I left my wife, said I will be back for dinner. Now I had to call my wife, just letting her know that I might not be back for dinner forever. Right? That was horrible. And I just lost my best friend just a few weeks before, who's the godfather of my daughter. and you know, kind of a deja vu for her. But it was what it was, and then everybody left the room, and I had other people next to me, and then the guy next to me died that night. And you know, I started to panic. Just there's so much you process in that moment, but I came to a huge aha moment, like that epiphany. And I realized that everything I've done, I've been super blessed. I've been lucky, if at all, but I've never really led my life. I've been just lucky. I had a good life, but it wasn't because of my leadership skills. It wasn't because I led that life. It was just luck. And
Mm,
you said it before. I had already a warning shot just a few years before. I ignored that because I was like super smart, like we are all super smart, right? The winners. And no. So now I was there lying in bed and I started to pray. I said, please, please give me a second chance to make a first impression. And that was that. So I got a second chance apparently, because it would be awkward sitting here was not that
right.
sense, right?
Right.
Would be different discussion. But so that's what I do. I do coaching. I swore to, I made an oath, my mission, my purpose, to help man like me, same situation, who run around, maybe not stuck in an ICU or hooked to an ECMO, but still like slowly but surely dying,
Mm.
because we're giving away the most precious gift we have is our life, and the one thing that matters are the relationships you have. That's the
Yeah.
most precious thing.
Well, I mean, just there's tons of stuff here, bro. I mean, it's just amazing. So one is you talked about the 90 pounds. You were not in physical great health at that moment. Is that fair?
Horrible, horrible. I couldn't
Yeah.
barely walk from the bed to the bathroom.
This is before you got sick.
That was while I got sick. I gained so much weight while I was sick. I was sick for few months. I
Yeah.
gained weight like I don't know, like a
Okay.
snowman melts on South Beach.
Yeah.
For me, it
Yeah.
was just the opposite.
Yeah. You were just adding it. Okay. Sedentary, not able, recovery, and just gaining weight. Okay. So you go that. One of the intriguing things of this. Um, you talked a little bit offline before we got going, like
Mm,
there's this almost like sixth sense, like where you're in the room who's had there could be 300 people in there, and
yeah,
immediately there's a common bond, and almost like a magnet, a magnet draw
yeah.
to another person who's also had a near death experience.
I feel that, yeah, and I've strange is maybe the wrong. I don't know how to define it, but when I talk to people who went through similar experiences, I had a gentleman who got hit by a bus. I mean, by a minivan, while he got off his car, and I was on a podcast recently. It was someone who had a car accident, near death experience, and what we share certain things that are very difficult to describe,
Yeah.
um, and it's almost like we were given that clarity. Someone lifted this fog that is surrounding us and gave us a very clear uh, vision of what matters. And then you come out of this experience, the fog is gone, and that vision is almost like burned into your mind.
Mhm.
And for me, it was clear that I had to take that and make sure that I get rid of as much fog as I can in other people's lives.
I love it. When I see people that are on fire for their purpose, right? They don't they throw on the blinders. Like they don't see anything else except where I'm supposed to go. Like this is
Yeah,
my mission, Tino. I can't divert because I've got to go do this. It's a calling that's bigger, greater than me. And
yeah,
and in fact, if you bring up something else, I don't understand the language. Like,
Yeah.
is that Danish? Because I don't speak Danish. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
don't know what that
no.
language is, because I've got to go there because it's calling me forward, and I don't know what
Mhm.
else to do. And nothing is going to saturate or satisfy this burning inside of me until I get to that purpose.
So on top of that,
Okay.
desire, that burn and whatnot, now I understand that your life, because we make these plans, right? Next week I do this, and next
Yeah,
month
yeah.
I do that, and next year I do this. But
Calendars.
right, but life can be over in a second, and you don't
Yeah.
understand that. You don't understand that there's someone who can flip that switch any given moment. So if you fuck around, excuse my French, because you think you have endless time and you can do all this and next week that, you're wrong, you're mistaken. And I think somebody's watching us, just making sure that we take advantage of this precious gift, right? So we treat it correctly. Okay. We treat it not correctly. We will regret it. But regret is something that you can fix backwards. Like when you drive, you don't look in the rear mirror to drive your
Yeah.
car. You look in
Right.
the front, right? You're looking at the road ahead of you. So keep that in mind.
If so, here's my question for you: Is are you at risk 5 years later? 5 years, almost to the day later. Are
Yeah.
you at risk, Tino, of that fog creeping in on you, or you'll never let it come back?
No, never. And the people that I work with, the people that we work with, the same. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a harsh moment for these people to get rid of that fog.
Yeah.
But again, you can tell yourself the stories that you want. The truth is the truth,
Yeah.
and you. But sometimes we tell ourselves things and we believe that that's the truth. So we run around in our life and we don't even know that we're lying to ourselves.
I know.
I, it's
I want to hear your input on this, because I get massively concerned. I mean, it's like a trigger flag, right? When I
yeah,
hear someone go, "You know what, Tino? That's my truth." And you're like, "Ah,
yeah.
I don't know,
There's no
man.
such
I
thing.
don't know. I don't yeah,
The-
I'm not buying."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost a philosophical question, but a reality is reality, right? And I want to tell you a funny story. You know
Okay.
that the color blue, when you go back in history, they didn't know blue. But blue is something that we've learned as human beings over time. So when you read all these old books, they don't say the blue ocean, the blue sky. They describe it in a very different way. And they found that Amazon tribe that also didn't know blue. So they describe blue as a shade of green.
Mm.
It's interesting. So, like you would say, no, it's blue, but they would say, no, 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 it's green. So who's right and who's wrong? The thing is, reality is what reality is and what we make reality. So, you know, it's not necessarily wrong or right. And it's not your true as my truth, it's more about what is true. And again, you can turn this upside down if you want to, but at the end of the day, an egg remains an egg. You can turn it upside down, I don't care what you do with it. You can fry it if you want to, but it is what it is. And I really don't care. It's your life and you decide what you do with it. I always say the choices we make determine the challenges we face. Every
Mm.
choice you make determines the challenges you will face. So make conscious decisions, make conscious choices. And that you can only do if you have clarity.
Mm. That's good, man. Yeah, that's really good. I really yeah, you got a couple good ones here. Nice zingers. These better be an unfogged. All right. So yeah, they better be there. So let's
Yeah.
talk about a little bit about winners find a way, right? I love the quote, winners when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win.
Yeah.
And man, I've just had this extreme ability and also good fortune to surround myself with those folks, right? Like I know exactly, I understand the concept of the 5 people around me, and you'll become the average of them. And so I you know, just as much as that choice is a
Mhm.
big choice for me. Who will
Mhm.
I allow into my life,
Mhm.
around me,
Mhm.
around my children? So
Mhm.
those choices are severe, and I have never taken that lightly. And so I've been surrounded by winners, right? Who do exactly that, who are not immune to adversity and challenge. They are going to
Mhm.
face losing situations. In fact, most everybody I know has taken one on the chin, man. Like, that game where you're just like, oh, so
Mhm.
that was a good tennis match. I lost 0-0 in about 55 minutes. It's like, that person was a lot better than you today, right? It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know what I was getting into, right? I had that experience with Todd Martin, when I was a kid, right?
Uh,
And so, and it was like, man, you realize there's a level that I'm not ready for. I figured out a lot of ways to beat people, but this was not the day. This is
mhm.
there's no winning going on that day. The
Mhm.
winning was the lesson, right? The lesson was you need to go home and practice. You found out what a ATP pro player looks like. I didn't know that at the time. He was going to four and number four in the world, right? I just knew he was a lot better than me. Yeah,
You knew he was better.
yeah, and I'm like, "Man, there's a lot of holes in my game," right?
Yeah.
And when you're winning, you don't notice the holes, right? When you're getting smacked like that, man, it's really evident, right?
But
So
but but I think that you're pointing out one thing is you're losing, you're making a mistake, or
sure,
our society for some reason sees that as a weakness, and you
which is
cover it
crazy.
up, like you don't show that. You go on Instagram, you think like, whoa, everybody's having a great life, just me. I seem to have not a great
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. Everybody on Instagram is living
Everybody
the
is
large.
partying, and I'm sitting, staring out of the
Yeah,
window.
yeah, but
Um,
that's why they call it fake book, right?
well, but so what I'm saying is, what you just said is, you're clear about what it is. You're clear about, learning. You're clear about, hey, I can make a mistake, and then I
Yeah,
go back to the drawing board, blah, 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 because you have that clarity, and that defines a winner, right?
yeah,
But if you don't have that clarity, if you lie to yourself, it's like people who come play a round of golf and they're like, "Yeah, I broke 80," whereas they shot like 106. Who do you lie to? Who?
yeah.
Like,
To yourself only there, right?
well,
Like,
whatever. Does it make you
yeah,
feel good? Okay, whatever. Post it on Instagram.
yeah.
I just shot 80. Like whatever, or 79.
Still haven't hit 79. I still haven't hit it. Yeah.
It's like whatever you tell yourself, if it makes you feel good. But
Yeah.
it's a lie. Just remember that, and you're not a
Mhm.
winner. You're losing right now. You're losing, and you're losing against yourself, which is even worse.
Tell me one of the lessons you learned. Give me a lesson along your way. You and I, we're in the entrepreneurial community, which I'll never understand because you understand the hierarchy of learning. Like we're
Mhm.
not learning anything from lecture series. We're not learning anything from reading. It's 5 and 10% retention on those two mediums. You have to go and do it to get the lesson, right? You have to go teach it, and then you
Yeah.
will go. I always tell a lot of people like, I'll know you know it when you can teach it, right? And so when we think about that, baseball's a good example. 70% failure rate, and you make $10 million a year. Like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
the great number. And then here's our schools. If you're not 90%, you're not an A, you're nobody, right? Like, wait a minute, man. Like, I do love the commencement speech where Gates makes all the C students, the C graduates,
Mhm.
stand up, and then he says, okay, not to embarrass you. This is not that intent. He says, everybody take a good look at him because you'll be working for them. And I was
Mhm.
like, man, that's right. These people are busy. They don't, school's not the priority. They're prioritizing their career, their
Mhm.
skill sets. They're
Mhm.
prioritizing everything. Like, yeah, I need to go to class. I need to get through it. A 2.0 still a graduation. Like, fine, but I want to do something else. And they're focused on the next thing, not this moment in time where no banker in my ever life has ever asked me for my president's list from college, right? Like,
Mhm.
didn't care about my grades, that's for sure. So in the real world, it's not that effect. Walk me
Mhm.
through a time, because you and I have been through this up and down, where you did lose, where you did find, man, here's the scorecard, whatever that is. It's
Mm.
clear I'm losing. I'm going to have to do something different, and what you did about that.
So first, I went through that so many times, and you know, you said it earlier. I think you know, you have people who got punched once or twice or maybe more times. And I've learned, uh, and maybe because I am stubborn, and that's not even funny. It's like I'm really upset about it, um, because we learn to be you know, focused. We learn to be persistent. We learn to be, you know, and then we kind of mistake that for stubborn. So
Mm,
you know, I had to go through these near death experience situation twice, right? And I had to have several business failures. I went up, then I lost it again, then I went up, then I lost it again, then I went up. You know, it's like Jesus, and it's so exhausting. You know,
how
it's
exhausting.
it's so exhausting. It's this, you know, like building a sandcastle, and then the waves come and take it away from you, and you just turn around and say, "Look, mommy, it's looking really great," and then you turn around, and like, where did it go? You know, whoa.
Yeah, just
The
like
ocean
that.
took it.
Yeah,
And man, I mean, it took me a long time to learn that I just had to move up the beach so the waves wouldn't crash my sandcastle.
yeah.
So I learned that. I learned that if you do not, if you're unwilling to be very humble and understand that you're just part of a larger, bigger puzzle, um, then your sandcastle is going to get crushed every other moment. And
Mm,
trust me, it's going to happen when you least expect it. When you just finish it and turn around and say, "Look at my sandcastle," then is when they crash it. And that is life. And you know, maybe it's the metrics. Maybe everything is already out there, and you know, you ask yourself the questions and so on. You know, Neo. But that is what I learned, and I really do believe that. I
yeah,
do believe that is it. And once we understand that, we're ready. We're moving. We're really moving forward. Otherwise, we're just in a hamster wheel. We think we're moving super fast, but we're not really moving an inch.
yeah. What would you say
Hamster
for
wheel.
for for folks like you and I who have been knocked down more than once, right?
Mm.
We also develop, I don't know what it is, if it's a tough skin and affinity to the comeback.
Resilience.
Like, yeah, there's a resilience, right? That says, hey, listen, I'm not afraid of it, of getting knocked down because I can get back up. I've done it before. Like, I'm not afraid of taking the risk because what's the worst thing that happens? I've seen it and I came back from it. So I don't think,
Uh,
I'm too worried about going through it again. Do I want to? No, but I'm not afraid of it.
So here's something important I've learned. One thing is the people that are close to you, your family, matter most. A lot of people take that as granted. You think just because you're married, your wife is going to stick around. You can treat her
Yeah.
like whatever, right? And it doesn't mean that you treat her badly. That's not the point. But if you don't treat her at all, you know, you're just the provider. You're like the plug where, you know, you plug something in and the electricity comes out. No, no, no. You really have to nurture that. You really have to be the leader at home that you're also in your business, because those are the relationships that will carry you through those moments. Because the worst thing is you find yourself, you know, down in that hole with your face in the mud, and then there's nobody around you.
Mm,
The people I was there in hospital, and I was crying not because I feared death, you know, that of course it's not great, but I was crying because I realized I'd failed these people. I had failed my family. That
mm.
was the reason why I was sad and why I was crying and praying to get a second chance. It wasn't like because I wanted to have another cheeseburger or something.
Right.
You know, I had enough in my
So,
life.
so let's dive that real quick. Here's the data. You're faced with this data that I'm losing as a father. I'm losing as a husband. The data is in. I haven't been who I'm supposed to be. I'm not, as you said, as you coach today, I'm not the man I should be. Yet I'm successful in this business. I've had a couple $1 million exits, blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah. got some money in the bank, great. But
Mm,
turns out I'm not the man I'm supposed to be for these most important people that I was put on earth to care for. And that's
yeah.
not symbolic. That was genetic. That happened for a reason, and that's
Mm,
DNA tied, right?
mm,
Like this is all
mm,
part of a matrix
mm,
that you're
mm.
engaged in, right? And there's no
Yeah,
running from that matrix.
yeah.
So the data's in. What do you do today to win?
So the very first thing is, and I'm telling that to everybody, and a lot of people don't get it right away, and it takes them a while. People say, ask me like, how long does it take? You know what you just asked me, like, okay, no, but what can I do, and how long does it take? That first step is the most important step, because if you don't understand where you are right now and where you want to go, there's that saying, if you don't know where you want to go, any way leads there.
Any road will get you there.
Yeah. So, and people are like, I know. And he said, do you really? Write it down. Write it down over and over and over again. And then do mirror that with reality. Does that really reflect what it is? Or is that something you keep telling yourself? So stop with all the bullshit and become brutally honest, at least with yourself. You don't have to pinpoint it, on a bulletin board or on your Instagram page, but be with yourself, and then you can do these steps. Because if you don't know, and people like, I want to make my wife happy. What does she really want? You know what she really wants? The new handbag? That's not what she wants. It really doesn't matter. If that is what she wants, there's something fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I always say, like, like, how do you expect your wife to make you happy if you don't even know what makes you happy? That is like, she's not a mind reader. She's not a psychic. And there is no, and people go through this and go like, uh-huh. And then they really have to dive deep. And then, for man, especially for man, to be vulnerable and to be in this spot is tough, because we're the guys, we're the winners, right? Nobody takes my place and nobody does that. And, you don't fuck around with me, blah, 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 blah. Drop that for a second and just with yourself, be honest.
Mm.
That's the very first step. And then you
Yeah.
start to get clarity.
So you got that. You got unfogged. You
Well,
got
I got that because somebody else did that for me. Somebody else pushed that reset button. I didn't go
yeah.
through this. I was put on that freaking ECMO machine, and then I started to realize all the the bad things. And I say, it doesn't really need you to get hit by a bus or put on an ECMO or whatever it is. Get a cancer diagnosis. You can do that on your own. It just takes time, and it takes effort, and you really have to want it, truly want it, desire it.
Love it. All right, man. Well, this has been awesome. I've just enjoyed this time, Tino, as always, man. You got Snyders Golf USA. Man, you got your new book coming out, Unfogged. You got your coaching, Be the Man You Should Be. Tell them
Yeah.
where they can find you, Tino.
Dietrich Institute. Dietrich, like my last name, Dietrich Institute.com/winners.
Mm. You're going to get a diet rich of winning right there with the oldest
Exactly.
Dietrich Institute, man. It's a diet rich of winning. So I love it, man.
Yeah, go for it.
It's been so fabulous, Tino, to have you aboard today. I've just truly enjoyed, getting to
Thank
know you
you.
even better and time. So for everybody else, always welcome that you join us on the Winners Find a Way. We are on every Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We are live on YouTube, the Leadershipity channel. We are on Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live. And then, of course, our big show drops on all the major networks from iHeartRadio to Apple to Spotify on Friday mornings for all the audio. But you catch that video early on Thursday, jump out, buy my book, Leading Winning Teams. You got to go pick that up because that's where it's at. And then, of course, you're going to pick up Unfogged when that's released by Tino. That's going to be incredible. And I can't wait for that, man. That's going to be super exciting. So,
You'll be on my
uh,
list.
yeah. I'm on the list, baby. That's awesome. So that's when you know you've arrived. You're on Tino's list. So I am super excited for everybody else. Thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way. Reach out to the Dietrich Institute and Tino. Check him out. He is on the way and always good information. So thank you so much for Tino and joining us. For everybody else, winners find a way.